Okay, I promised a friend that I would show her how to make a corded bowl like this one, although this one is done on the machine. Let's see if I can get it to focus there. Might need a little more brightness. Anyway, I'm going to show you the hand version of that and how basically how I get it started. Set that aside for right now. I'm going to pause for just one moment. So, so I paused and I have my little tools right in front of me. First of all, what I use is this cotton clothesline. I picked it up at Walmart. You can probably get it at any variety store like Walmart. And it's just soft, white, nice and bendable. You can use cotton clothesline as well. Anything that's going to be able to allow you to coil without too much trouble and not a whole lot of stiffness. So there's that. I also have scraps of fabric, and I just have strips about, I mean, you can probably use any width, but I kind of don't like to go any larger than 2 inches, 1.5 to 2 inches, because then you get too much twist and you've got bulk in there. And then you're going to need a big-eyed needle, something like this. These are chenille needles. These are chenille needles. And got a lot of shine on there. But you can see that they have a big eye. They have to have some point to them because I usually do try and bury my knots of my thread. You can use something like this, which is just another, it's like a cotton yarn. This is Peaches and Cream. It's a variegated, which is kind of fun. You could also, I'm going to try, I haven't tried this before, but I'm going to try some embroidery floss just to see how that works for this technique. You'll need some scissors to cut your strips down if you need to. I like to cut like a 45-degree angle at the end. And of course these are not going to be very good scissors apparently. Got it though? So that you kind of have a little bit of a taper. And then I'm going to grab, also I use these clips. These I got at Dollar Tree. You can use any kind of clip. A binder clip would work as well. And like I say, I like a thinner piece. But we're going to just start, and I just randomly grab things. So what I do at the very end, and you're going to just fold over, and then fold over from the sides, and go like that. So that you're basically encasing that end in your fabric. I'm going to go ahead and cut a length of, I'm going to get one of these big-eyed needles out. We'll see what happens with the embroider floss. This may not be a good idea. We'll see. I'm going to get a good size, and I think I'm going to use, you know, embroider floss you can split into strands and use a thickness that you want. I think I'm going to use all 6 strands together because I want the boldness or the thickness of that to show up. And then I threaded my needle like that. I am going to go ahead and tie a knot at the end. I do that by just rolling it around my finger and just rolling it off. Kind of a quilter's knot. Rolling it off my finger, and then I have a knot. Okay, let's get back to this. You might kind of want to do a 45. It'll probably help get you get you started there. I'm going to roll it till I basically just have it going around, and you have, you know, basically just roll till you get it wrapped around there like that. I'm going to turn it this way on itself and go ahead and start. I like to bury my knot in there somewhere in the middle. So I'm just going to come up like through the insides and give it a nice little pull here. And of course, I get it all wrapped around everything. And then you're just going to wrap around, and once you get it started, you don't have to go back through the fabric itself. You can just go around the wrap in front of it. But right now I'm just going to get it started, and that's probably one of the hardest parts, is starting and ending, but they're not too hard. And then I'm just going to, there it popped out of my hand, wrap around like that, and we'll get it rolling. Like I say, this is probably one of the, it looks like we're going to get an oval shape if I keep going this direction. If you want a perfectly round, you probably want to just, and we could probably, you know, do it so that it rounds out as we go. And what I do, once I get it started, I use those clips. I'll wrap ahead and use those clips to secure the wraparounds, and then, or where I add another color. So the nice thing about the embroidery floss is that you can actually sew into the fabric very, very easily. The thicker thread like this, it's much harder to pull through the fabric, and that's why I would just, once I got to like this point, I would just come up in between. But I kind of do like the embroidery floss because it does allow me to just sew through, and I don't have to worry about. Anyway, I would find the actual opening like right here where the coils are. I would come up and I would just wrap around, going into the spaces between the coils. Right now I think I'm just going to continue kind of picking it up. Like I say, I kind of like that. I keep pulling out of the camera here, and I think I've got that almost secured to where I can start wrapping a piece. There we go. Let me do one more stitch. And of course you can do different stitches. You can do a blanket stitch here, and the only difference between what I'm doing, this is kind of a whip stitch, I would say. And the only difference between doing the whip stitch and the blanket stitch would be catching the edge. I will show you in just 1 minute. I'm going to put this down for just a minute because I'm about to unthread my needle. I will show you here. Now that I've got it kind of started, you just kind of keep, I've got my things all tangled here. Untangle a minute. Okay. And let's put the rope on this side. Kind of just go at a 45-degree angle and just keep wrapping it around until you get to the end of that, and just wrap and wrap and wrap. And then this would be where I would use the clip, and I would just put it on there right now. As I get closer, I will add another piece, but there you go. I've got it clipped so it doesn't unravel. I've got it started here. And we will you just keep wrapping. Circle is probably, a circle or a bowl, like I showed you earlier, is probably the easiest way to start, because you can just keep going around and around. And get myself reoriented here. You just keep going around and around, and you just try and make your stitches even. If they're not even, no big deal, man. Just kind of eyeball it, and you just keep wrapping around, just like that. I don't know if you probably could get variegated embroidery floss. I just decided to explore this option most recently, so I haven't really looked at it to see what if that would be an availability. Now, if you're going to do a blanket stitch, you could go up through here, and instead of going over like the whip stitch, let me get this, my little, you would actually catch this loop right here before you pulled it down. And you would do that without the twist that I just put in there, but you would do that and it would have a blanket stitch, which is just a little bit of a different variation. The whip stitch is easier for me, probably a little bit, but you know, like I say, you can just do, and you can play around with different stitches. You can do a V-stitch, you can do, like I say, I just started making these. I don't even know why I got on the kick. Sometimes, you know, you'll see something and it just like, you know, that would be a good hand project. Hand projects are, you can see I got a little tangle here that I'm undoing. Hand projects are comforting to me. I tend to be a pretty busy person, and I like to keep my hands busy sometimes, and it helps quiet my mind. Anyway, so let me toot right along here, and I'm kind of holding that thread in the back until it gets up, and then I put it down. I kind of grab it again with my hand. Just trying to kind of do things as naturally. I mean, and I can see if you haven't sewn before that, you know, things might be a little more fiddly, but just keep after it because it's so much fun to sew and have something at the end of your project. Getting down here, I'm going to show you how to add the fabric. And it's not hard. You just basically are going to overlap. And so I get that wrapped around, and then I'm just going to start this kind of at a 45-degree angle. I got to get it the right 45-degree angle. And you're going to take your tip over like that, and then just so it catches. I'm kind of going the wrong direction, so yeah, you fiddle with it. So I kind of laid it out that way. I'm going to wrap it, and then I'm just going to keep it going. And then I might use 2 clips. I would use a clip here. So here's that, and I'm just going to keep wrapping it. And you can see I kind of got my 45-degree going on. I'm going to take my other clip, take my first clip, and put it back on that seam or the joining where they are, because it's really not sewn yet, so it's not fixed. And I'm just going to take this out, and I'm going to pull it and just wrap it. I like to take my selvages off just so I don't have white, which is, selvage is the part of the edge there when they're making the fabric. They have a white edge on them if you don't sew. And I'm just going to keep wrapping, like kind of at that 45-degree angle. So I would say it would be best to have 2 of those clips. 2 clips. I have another one hanging here. And I'm just going to clip it. As you get closer to the edge where it joins the 2 fabric pieces, you can take your clip off. It will start getting in the way, but you can hold it and it'll be secure enough. And I kind of do like the fact that I'm able to go in and just kind of push through the fabric and the clothesline and make it nice and sturdy. So I'm kind of liking the embroidery floss thing. But you can use all kinds of things for this. Keep going off the camera there, so I'm just whipping around there. This you want to kind of take hold of, but if it, the raggedy bits are kind of the charm of this. So if you have a little part stick out or a raggedy bit, again, don't sweat it. It's made to be kind of a folk art project, and the charm of it. I do quilting, and I don't like. And you can poke it in like that guy. You can poke in. There you go. Just poke it in. I like quilting, and I do some long arm quilting. I have a sit down long arm, but still have a little bit of problem with that, but no worries. Just work it until you get it where you're going to be able to catch it with your thread. I do some long arm quilting. I have a long arm, but it's a sit down long arm, and I don't have the space for the big rails, but I don't like necessarily the computerization. It's unless you're doing quilting for competition. I like the charm of doing quilting that you can see has the maker's hand in it. I like the maker's hand anymore. There's so much stuff mass produced. Anyway, so you just keep wrapping around like this, and then got my little coil. It's all the same process until the very end, and I will show you how to do that. Okay, so I have gotten down to where I've got just a little short piece of floss left, so I'm going to just show you how I ended up. It's not anything, I just basically, again, just bury the knot in there. So I'm going to take it around until I have enough room to sew it in and tie a knot, but so you don't want to let it get too short. And I'm just going to do that, and then I'm also running up against this the end of this fabric, so that's kind of getting in my way a little bit, but we'll make it work. And sometimes if it's too fat after I've wrapped it too, I will just take an extra twist on that to tighten it up. Then I'm going to go into this side and maybe do like a little stitch in there and then thread your needle. This is the stuff that happens when you're actually doing it. I usually like to just clip those off when they're frayed like that because it makes it easier to rethread. There we go. And then I'm just going to go in here and make a little knot, kind of go underneath, that is going to be hidden by that coil on top. And I'm just going to take a stitch and another stitch. And I'm just making this up, guys. I just figured out how it works for me. Make a little knot there. It's probably good enough, but you can do it again just so that your threads don't, so that you're basically double knotting underneath, and it's going to be underneath that coil. Pull it back out here and just knot. And I just unthreaded. I'm going to take it, I'm going to clip it not too close because we don't want to have the knot come undone. I'm going to add another piece of thread, and I don't know how long I made this. I probably made it when I initially started. Maybe you don't want it. I'm lazy, so I get it as long as I can, but you don't want it so long that it's going to cause you problems with tangling. So I probably did 2 yards. There be what, 72 inches. That might be a little long, but just see what works for you. If you have a longer thread and you're finding that you're just having too many tangles, then try a shorter piece. And we're going to basically start it just like we started it to begin with. and that is to kind of roll it over your fingers like that. I actually dampen my finger before I do that. It makes it easier. Roll it over like that, and I'm just rolling it right off the end and pulling. And you got a knot. If there's a long tail on it, I will clip it fairly close to that knot, so I don't have to hide too much. And that you can just, and then you just make sure when you're going along that you've got that buried in there so that you can't see it. And so I'm just going to bury that knot maybe a little bit farther back so I don't cause myself a lot of bulk. And pull it up. And then I'm just going to roll those ends in, and when I go to make my next stitch, I am going to make sure that it goes over the top of those knots, and I'm going to continue on. Okay, so you can see that I now have a pretty good sized base. The base will determine how big your bowl is. If you wanted to stop here or a little bit smaller, you could make it like a coaster. Let's see if I can show you that. Kind of my camera angle is kind of bad, but anyway, you can make it like a coaster, and then you could just stop. We'll show you how to finish that as we get to the end here. I am going to add one more, and I noticed that one other little thing is I can helps you keep things through, is I just put a little tiny spot of glue on there. Now you could use like Elmer's, and you're just putting a teeny tiny spot on there. That helps keep it wrapped. So as I've been doing this, I figured that out along the way, and you will figure things out too, things that will make it easier for you. So I'm going to do the same thing over here as I start my other piece. And then we're going to start shaping our bowl. And that's just a matter of, instead of placing your coils in a flat position, you're just going to bring them up slightly. The angle of the bowl would be determined by, the shape of the bowl would be determined by the angle and how sharply you so like if you wanted a cylinder, you would place it like 90 degrees right on top of that. I'm just going to gradually, and I don't know, you get a feel for it. And if it's not, if it's too gradual, then you just move it in a little bit more. But we'll show you how to do that here in just one second. Let me get this wrapped the rest of the way so we have some things to work with. You kind of want to just look where your beginning is, and that's when we get to that point of ending. We're going to try and be in this general vicinity of where we started. So like right here is where we started, and this comes around, so we're probably going to end up over here somewhere so that you have a nice even bowl so that you're not lopsided at the top. And you can take a look at that as you get to that point and make that decision of where's a good place to stop. Stopping is very similar to how we started. We're going to cut a 95-degree angle, and we would basically cut it right here, and then we would leave some fabric so that we could overlap that, and then we're just basically going to taper right into the side. But that's how you would end your bowl. But I'm going to show you. I'm kind of going to get over into this area, and then I'm going to start pulling. And it's going to probably be a little hard to see on the camera because to see that angle, I will try and show you what it looks like when I get there. I just have to take a couple more stitches. And I don't need to sew my scissors in there. So here's where I kind of started and ended, and so that's where I'm going to kind of start to pull bit sides up a bit. I got a brand new long thread, so I'm tangling a little bit, and I need to get rid of this clip. So we've been coiling flat like this. So what I'm going to do, hopefully you can see this, I am going to bring this up just, it's not really, it's less than a 45. And I'm just going to, maybe if I tilt it a little bit, so I'm going to bring it up like that. It's a good angle. There, maybe that's a better angle. So you can see that I'm just, it probably is close to a 45. And then I'm just going to coil and continue coiling that way until I get my bowl out here like this. And then I might bring it in a little bit more at the top so that I kind of have a nice rounded bowl shape. And then, you know, that's just a matter of bringing it in over this direction. And you're just going to hold it that way in that manner while you stitch. So you basically are just doing the same thing again, but you're just holding that coil toward the center a little bit. And then you just take a few stitches. See if I can get around on here so you can see how it looks. And it's fairly forgiving. And you can see that I've just started to come up a little bit on the edge of that. So I guess instead of seeing half of the rope, maybe you're seeing a third of the one below. Or maybe about half of what is showing on this side. So maybe I'm taking it like right there, and hopefully that makes some sense. It's kind of difficult to show. And we're just going to sew along. Oops, lost the top to my glue. And I catch all kinds of things. All kinds of things are flying here. That's what happens when you have long string, long thread. But like I say, I don't want to start and stop a million times, and it doesn't take me very long to use up my thread. I have now gone through about a skein of embroidery floss. So this would probably take 2 to 3 for the size of bowl that I'm working on right here. And I just, you know, it's just like a little bowl to toss things, decorative art supplies in it. And you can see we've started to round up here. I'm going to have to add another piece of fabric, but I'm going to keep going in that manner, and I'm just going to keep coiling on top of it at that basic same angle, and just kind of shape it as I go along. If I feel like I want it out like this, you could do very sharp angles. If you feel like you want it more of a bowl, you can round out and come in. So it's all about how you place that coil and what looks good to you. So I am going to, at this point, just add on another round or two, and I will be back to show you how to end it. Okay, I now have my sides built up. My very last round I kind of just set in just a little bit, hard to see again. Try and turn it so that you can see it. I still have my thread. There you go. That's kind of, and if you wanted to make these you know, more elegant, mine I just grabbed scraps that actually match a quilt from quilt scraps that I had, plus a few others. Places that you can get fabric, you could use an old shirt. If you like the pattern or the color and it's worn, it's not going to show any worn spots because of the way we wrap it. Fabric stores, if you're not familiar with fabric stores, you can get like, you can pick out a bolt if you like that, or several bolts of color, and get them cut at 1/8 quarter. That would give you several strips. The width of a fabric bolt on cotton, which is what I use, is a cotton, is about 42 to 45 inches. And as I said, you have to cut off the selvage edges, the little white, because I don't like the white in there. But you could make them out of a plain fabric and then just throw in a little color every now and then. You could make them out of something completely neutral and use the colorful thread as your accent. You can make like little X's. So many varieties. I think the next one I want to try, and what I want to do is try a rectangular or square one, and see how that goes. But I have got this to the size that I wanted. It is, gosh, about, this is my tear ruler, but it still measures about a little over 6.5, about 6.5 inches at the top. Good to throw in, you can throw in my little clips. You can throw in, that'd be cute, paper clips, paper scraps. I do a lot of collage work and whatnot, and I save small bits because you just never know when you're going to use a small bit. So many projects. Anyway, I am about around, there's a little bump here, and that's about where I started. I'm trying to get it to show up here. There you can see a little bit of a bump right here, and that's about where I'm going to end it so that it it's kind of level. So to do that, like I say, oops, I glued this because I wanted it to stay, but it's easy to pull apart. So I'm going to measure, I'm going to want to end about right here. So I'm going to unwrap back to that point. And that's where I want the cording to be. So I'm going to continue to unwrap this. And then, like I said, I am going, I got another pair of scissors here. Hopefully they work better. And then I'm going to cut my 45 degree. So I'm just going to lay it out here, and I want it to lay right there. So I'm going to cut like a 45 degree angle, roughly. I need to get some good scissors out here. There we go. So I got a little bit of an angle there. See if I can get it. Yeah, there we go. A little bit of an angle there. Then I'm going to go ahead and take my piece. I'm going to keep wrapping, and I am just going to keep wrapping around until that end just kind of goes away. And it'll, when you don't have the cording in there, you will see that it actually just tapers nicely. So there you go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my little glue. I have this little tiny, you can take Elmer's again. This is just happens to be some crafting glue that is a PVA, much like Elmer's, just a little thinned out. And I have the little tiny nozzle on it. You would want to be really careful if you just had a Elmer's, not to get too much glue, but just a few dots would do it. And I'm just going to give that a little pinch, get that glue to stay, and I'm going to just cut right along that edge. There we go. And then as I get there, I will just pull that in. So I am going to just finish this off. If you don't get it exactly in that spot, no big deal. This is a no big deal project, you know. I am going to tangle my thread. And I am just working my way. Like I say, I'm pulling it just, you can see I'm pulling it just this side of that outside thing, just to kind of give it a little finished lip. You don't have to do it that way. The shape can be, you know, I mean, just play with it. All kinds of shapes. Like I say, I want the next one I want to make is, I'm going to try like a rectangle or a, I see a small rectangle basket. I think that would be good for storage. You know, I just use things out here in my little she shed. Hopefully I'm not sticking my head in there, because I'm trying to figure out where to place. And it is coming apart a little bit, but like I say, you can just, and actually what I might do is just go ahead and clip that. I can, maybe. I can get the clip on there, right? There we go. And we're almost done here. You can also use what's called fat quarters. A lot of the yardage shops, Joann's, Walmart for that matter, at least if they carry fabric, a lot of times they have fat quarters. Those are just small pieces. I can't remember, I think it's 18 by 22. And it's just the way it's cut, but you know, you don't need a ton of fabric for this, and that way you can buy small bits and, you know, coordinate your colors. If you all want all turquoise, but you want something, you know, different patterns, you can do that. This is just basically scrap. Thrift stores, you could probably find cotton shirts or something like that, or you know, some of that you could just strip up, make into strips, and you know, there's just all kinds of different places where you can get the fabric or the rags, if you know, want to call this a rag one, a rag basket. But your sky's the limit on how you do it. I mean, you know, if it was all one color, it would be much more elegant or refined. This is kind of fun and playful, I guess. You know, if you did analogous colors, which are all, you know, same color family, all teals, whatever, you know, it would just give you a little bit quieter effect. So now you can see I'm coming into that where I had made that taper, and I am just going to make sure that I can get that sewn down. And I want to make sure that my thread goes over it. If you have to take an extra stitch or two, no, that works fine. So right at the edge, I might take, you know, several that are closer together just to make sure that I secure that little tip. Nice and tight. And probably one more right over that. If it's close together, again, I'm not going to sweat it. And there you have it. Now I'm just going to knot off. You do have a little bit of play in there that you can, you know, kind of shape your bowl a little bit if you need to. But there you go. I will, let's see if I can turn it so you can see it a little bit better. Here's the bottom side. You can see the shape of it. I'm just going to knot off that thread, and we're done. There you have it.